Welcome back to Ketogenic Girl, and in this video I'm just answering a lot of questions that I get all the time. So I posted on Instagram and asked people, what are your burning questions about the ketogenic diet? And we're just going to go through some of them right here. So one of the first questions that I got is intermittent fasting crucial for success? Is it really necessary to keep proteins low? So intermittent fasting is not necessarily crucial for success in the sense that you need to be skipping meals every day, but it is important to be fasting between meals. So you don't want to be inundating your body constantly with food because your body's going to be secreting insulin in order to clear your bloodstream from glucose. So it is important between meals to take a break from eating, and that's kind of what I call intermittent fasting. Would be from your last meal of the day, hopefully it's earlier in the day, you're not eating late at night, until you wake up in the morning and have your first meal of the day, whether that's early in the morning or around lunchtime. It is important to fast during that period of time and then in between meals. And is it really necessary to keep proteins low? It really depends on what your goals are with the ketogenic diet, but eating too much protein basically just turns to sugar in your bloodstream. So it is important that you keep the ratio 80% fat, 15% protein, and 5% carb. And that question was from Sweet Face Fitness. The next question is from the Brianna. Here's one. Why does everyone think Quest bars are amazing? The rule about carbs minus dietary fiber only works if it's a non-added ingredient. After doing some research on the dietary fiber from a Quest bar, it is added dietary fiber. So is everyone just wishing it's a magical world and consuming over 20 grams of carb in a setting? Brianna, I agree with you. I don't think that Quest bars are ideal for keto, although they are working apparently on a new ketogenic bar that's more keto friendly and higher in fat and has more appropriate macros for the ketogenic diet. But everybody has a different carb threshold. So some people might have a carb threshold of 40, 50 grams a day, in which case they can definitely get away with having a Quest bar every day. But if you're like me, in order to lose weight and keto adapt, you really need to be in that 5%, under about 20 grams of carb a day. So I don't eat Quest bars when I'm in weight loss mode, but in maintenance, I do think that they're a good option on occasion, especially when you're traveling. Our next question comes from Cleo, the 7th. Comparison between keto versus Banting versus Atkins. I have a video on here about the comparison between keto and Atkins, and basically it has the same principles of low carb, but with keto what was really missing was, I think, the testing your blood sugar and testing your ketones, and that's how you can really tell if you're keto adapted, and that's whether you're testing your breath or your blood. I think that's really the missing component, was that you need to be eating huge amounts of healthy fats, up to 80% of your total intake, and you can't just go crazy on protein. I've talked about this before. A lot of people thought that Atkins was just all about eating tons and tons of protein, but it's not, and you have to keep protein in check. So that would be the main difference to me between ketosis and the Atkins diet. Banting, from what I know from William Banting, he wrote a letter addressed to the public on corpulence, and it was telling people basically if you eat carbs and potatoes and bread and pasta, you're just going to get fat. So he made the trend of Banting famous because he just ate a lot of fat and protein, and he focused on whole foods, from what I know. And that's really my approach as well, is you just want to be eating whole, real food. You don't want to be eating processed junk and food-like products. You have to be able to grow something that you're eating and make sure it's just a real whole food, and that's really the importance. So all of them are very similar. Atkins, keto, low carb, Mediterranean, zero carb, Banting, all of these have a similar frame of reference. I think ketogenic just takes it that much further and is a little bit more strict than some of the other ways of eating out there. Next question is from Melram1028. What advice do you have for beginners, specifically how to get through the first week and avoiding the cravings for carbs and junk? For beginners, I really think that the more strict you are, the quicker you're going to keto adapt and you're going to get through, any kind of keto flu or get through those cravings faster. I see a lot of people who kind of hang on to some of the old habits and things that they were eating before because they're not really prepared to go full on, strict with keto. So if you're hanging on to artificial sweeteners, your diet drinks, if you're hanging on to, sweeteners and gum or whatever it is that, you're having trouble giving up, you're just gonna make the adaptation process a lot slower and it's just gonna take longer, and you're gonna keep getting cravings because you're continuing to stimulate your body with those insulin stimulating foods. So my advice is just rip the Band-Aid off and do keto as strictly as you can, and you're just gonna get that much quicker results and adapt a lot more fast. Next question is Ima Kimmel. Tell us a tip to lose weight faster. Is fasting 24 to 48 hours per week a good way to lose? Fasting is definitely a great way to fast track things, literally. It puts you in an instant state of ketosis. So I think one of the main tips that I have to lose weight faster is just to avoid dairy, avoid nuts, avoid these common allergens that might be holding you back. Dairy for a lot of people is insulinogenic, and I've talked about that before. It does stimulate too much insulin because it has milk sugars in it, lactose and galactose. So some people don't notice it, but if you are stalling or you're struggling, then you definitely should skip the dairy, skip the nuts, and fasting 24, 48 hours a week is a great way to speed things up as well. Grain-free lifestyle asks, plus all the fake sugars, I totally have thought the same thing. That was, about the Quest bars. There are some fake sugars in there as well. How do I get through PMS sugar cravings without diving for the cookie jar? And that's from Marley_2. Now, every month in your cycle, in a woman's cycle, in her third week after ovulation, you get really intense cravings. And that's because your body thinks that you may have gotten pregnant. So it skyrockets all these cravings for sugar, fatty foods, salty foods, and it's a lot harder to resist carbs in that week. So I suggest making lots of fat bombs and keeping them, just with stevia, making fat bombs. There's tons and tons of recipes online, but you get a craving, and if you're getting a very specific craving, you can make, a chocolate fat bomb or coconut butter fat bomb. Coconut butter is a great way whenever I get cravings, and coconut oil, because if you're full and satisfied, then you're not going to have cravings. So just remember, it's only in that third week, and then it's going to pass, and your estrogen is going to be going through the roof, which is a great time to avoid carbs and snacking and all that, because it gives you that extra boost. Next question is, do you have carb cycling, and what is your opinion about fasting? So I just answered the question about fasting, but I don't believe in carb cycling. I don't believe in any kind of glucose spiking at all. I know that this is big in the bodybuilding world, but if you're fully keto adapted, ketones are such an incredible fuel for your body. You do not need to carb load. You do not need to carb cycle. And the more that you do carb cycling, it's going to keep you out of ketosis. You're not going to really get the amazing results that you get when you're completely keto adapted, and you're just going to be holding yourself back and doing damage, I believe, to your metabolism. So I would skip any kind of carb cycling, and just stick to the keto foods. And you really, to me, every day is a cheat day on keto because the food is so rich, satisfying, and delicious. And I don't get carb cravings. I don't have cravings like that because I'm so satisfied on the ketogenic diet. Jacqueline111 asks, what is the recommended daily protein? Do you recommend allowing for a certain amount of grams of protein per lean pound or total body weight? I don't. I just stick to the macros, and that's 80% fat, 15% protein, 5% carbs. So whatever that is for you, you know, if you're eating a 2,000 calorie diet, or you're eating closer to like a 1,500 or 1,200 calories a day diet, you just have to make sure that those macros are the same. And I don't really recommend a certain amount of protein because everyone is different. So I do make personal recommendations for coaching clients because I have their intake, I have their goals, I know their current weight and their goal weight, but you can't really make those kind of recommendations. Grain-free lifestyle asks, my breath, no matter how much water I drink or how often I brush my teeth, I've got acetone mouth. So a lot of people talk about breath on the ketogenic diet, and that's because your body secretes ketones in 3 different ways, and acetone is one of them. It's the one that comes through in the breath, and I experienced more of that at the beginning. I don't experience it anymore, but your body does secrete less ketones the more keto adapted you are. So hang in there, and you know, I just recommend using mouthwash and breath mints, and you know, the more keto adapted you become, as I said, you know, the less you're going to experience side effects like that. Next question is from Brand81. How often should I allow myself cheese? It really depends on the person. High-fat dairy is a great way of keto adapting and getting high ketones if you're not sensitive to it. But one thing with cheese is it's really easy to overdo it because cheese isn't just high fat, it also has protein in it. So you can eat a plate of cheese and blow your whole protein intake for the day. I recommend, if you're gonna eat cheese, just eat the high fat cheese, double, triple cream brie, you know, cream cheese, and avoid cheese that's just really high in protein. Serendipity, hi Daphne. Daphne asks, how low is too low when it comes to blood sugar? And I would say, you know, I'm not a physician, I'm not a doctor, nothing I say on here is medical advice, but I am studying to become a registered holistic nutritionist. That's basically my training, and everything else I'm self-taught. When it comes to blood sugar, your body will never really go below a certain threshold, because even if you go into, you know, a fasting state, your body will convert your body's stored fat and energy into fatty acids, into ketones, and into glucose. So your body will never allow itself to go below a certain threshold. Usually it's around 50 or 60. So as long as you're getting numbers around there, you're fine, as far as I know. But again, it's not medical advice, and I recommend talking with your physician if you have any specific concerns about that. Ketones go up as blood sugar goes down. They're inversely correlated. So the only real danger comes when your ketones are going up and your blood sugar is also going up really high. So you don't want to have really high ketones and high blood sugar. But if you're eating a ketogenic diet, then they are inversely correlated, and you'll see the lower your blood sugar goes, the higher ketones go. Sohail is also commenting about the Quest bars. Gem223 wants to know if there should be a certain portion size for anything. I just finished my first week and I'm down about 7 pounds. It was a lot easier than anticipated, but I wonder if I need to eat less or more of something. I've always done low fat, high protein, smaller portions, have cravings. I'm excited to continue and would like any pointers to continue my success. So I would say low fat, high protein is definitely not the same thing as keto. Keto is high fat, moderate protein, low carb. So if you're eating a high protein, low carb diet, you're basically just eating a high carb diet, because like I said, protein just turns into sugar when there's an excess amount. Your body stores it just like it stores fat. So there's not really specific portions. You really just have to follow the 80-15-5% rule. Use an app like MyFitnessPal to track your macros, and you should be all set. What is the best sweetener to use from SDA523? I use stevia. It's the only one I use, and I use pure stevia. You can find it at Ketogenic Girl in my keto shop. I don't really believe in using a lot of the other sweeteners because so many of them are just derivatives of sugar. Pure stevia has nothing else added, no maltodextrin, no fillers. It's just pure stevia from a plant, and it's amazing. And if you get the liquid stevia glycerite version or the stevia tabs that I use, which you can just add to a drink, there shouldn't be any bitterness or aftertaste, and it works really well for keto. I've been on keto for about 2 months. I love it, but lately I'm having leg cramps. Is it low sodium? That's from Joni Barsuglia. Joni, it's basically usually deficiency in magnesium, so you can supplement with that. I'm not recommending any supplements, but I think bone broth is great for that with sea salt, and you may just be low in electrolytes. Next question comes from Bento Kelly. I've been stalling, thinking of abandoning keto. It's not working for me. My fasting glucose is over 100. I suspect low carb for so long has forced my liver to pump out glucose. Thoughts, suggestions, recommendations? I don't know if keto necessarily is for everyone in the world. You have to test it out for yourself, but I would say that if your blood glucose in the morning fasted is over 100 every day, then there's something that you're consuming that is triggering too much insulin the day before. So you really just have to play around with your diet and tweak some things and see if you get different results. So I'm just gonna refresh here and see if we have any other questions. A lot of these are covering, some of the questions that I get all the time on a regular basis. So it's great to see that there are so many coming through, and so many people have questions. Why does dairy stall weight loss from DBL EL? So I mentioned, I think in one of the other answers, that dairy has lactose and galactose, which are sugars. They're milk sugars, and for a lot of people that just triggers too much insulin, so it can stall. But the great thing is, once you get to your weight goal and you're in maintenance, you can enjoy all the high-fat dairy that you want, because it's just going to be a maintenance process, and you're not going to be losing weight or worrying about stalls anymore. Anna Loves Montreal, same question. Which sweetener has no impact on blood sugar? What about Coke Zero Light and chewing gums? I avoid these like the plague and don't recommend them to anyone. There's sucralose and tons of artificial sweeteners in some of those sodas and beverages, and they're really bad for the gut, the microbiome, which you really need to keep in great condition. You need to feed your microbiome with taking bifidobacteria, usually in the morning, and avoid any kind of artificial sweeteners, because they, especially sucralose, do a real number on your microbiome. So those are all the questions I'm going to answer for today. Thank you so much for watching, and feel free to reach out to me on my Facebook page, on Instagram, or here on YouTube, and check out my keto coaching, my meal plans, and be sure to check out the 28-day Ketogenic Girl Challenge. It's so much fun, and there's free coaching involved, a lot of support, and daily interaction in our Facebook group. So I love to hear from you guys, and I'll see you on the next video.